Well, hello there, friends, and welcome to another episode of In the Kitchen with Becca. Have you ever gotten obsessed with something? Something that keeps popping up in your feed? No matter how far away you try to run from it? Thanks, Zuckerberg. Well, that happened with me recently, and actually over the past few months. I've been obsessed and wanting to make something called a galette. Actually, something that I thought was called a galette for like forever, up until a week ago, until I realized it was called a galette, after I'd already made all my puns for it. But never mind that, Galettes get down to business. Was just inundated with galettes everywhere. Galettes galore. I couldn't decide on which one I wanted to make, so I made all of them. Just kidding, not all of them, but I took some recipes that I thought were really cool, both savory and sweet, and so I just took a week and made 6 galettes in 6 days, and I wanted to share those with you because I kind of nailed all of them. They were delicious, and I highly recommend you kick off fall baking season with some beautiful, delicious, sweet or savory, flaky but sturdy, delicious galettes, which are basically pies you can carry around with you and eat like pizza. I mean, come on, why wouldn't you want anything like that? Trick question, you want everything like that. So here are my recipes, enjoy, make them on your own. I'm obsessed with them, even though most of them are in my freezer right now. Enjoy the galettes. Galettes get down to business.
I use 2 doughs, a savory and a sweet. For the sweet dough, it's 1 cup of white flour, half cup of almond flour, tablespoon and a half of sugar, salt, cinnamon, 3 tablespoons of water, and a half cup of butter. For savory, it's half cup white flour, half cup almond flour, half cup whole wheat, teaspoon of sugar, salt, and half cup butter. Put all the dry ingredients in a bowl and whisk them together. Then you add your cubed butter. Take a pastry cutter and cut the butter into the pastry until you get small pea-sized butter peas. Then you add the water, start to mix the dough together, turn it out onto a work surface, and press the dough into a disc. Then cover and refrigerate the disc for at least an hour. After the hour's up, flour your work surface. Then roll out your dough until it's fairly thin. Now it's time for the galettes. I'm starting with a Marionberry Galette. I have 2 cups Marion berries. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 1/4 cup of sugar, half of a squeezed lemon. Mix that all together and let macerate. Place your macerated berries on the center of the pastry. After that, fold up the edges in a rustic fashion. Brush on milk to the crust, then sprinkle on some coarse turbinado sugar to add some crunch. Bake at 375 for 40 to 50 minutes until golden brown and berries are bubbling. Next is a Caprese Galette. On the pastry, I am putting some fresh mozzarella, followed by some thinly sliced ombre heirloom tomatoes. I season with salt and pepper. I put some fresh bay leaves on top. Fold the pastry over. Brush it with egg wash. Season one last time. And cook at 400 for 45 minutes. Then I did a Salmon Galette. I started with an herbed cream cheese in which I used fresh dill, parsley, and lemon zest. Mix that together and spread it on the pastry. Then I laid a layer of thinly sliced shallot and then a layer of thinly sliced Pacific Northwest sockeye salmon. Delicious. After that, I made a layer of shaved asparagus, seasoned with salt and pepper, topped with some fresh dill, folded the pastry over, then baked at 400 for 45 degrees. Make sure to give some extra salmon to your young dogs. Next, I did a grilled peach and vanilla butter galette. So I started by grilling some thick peach slices, and while those were getting browned on a buttered skillet, I made a vanilla brown butter by melting some butter, adding the seeds and pods of 1 vanilla bean. I laid the grilled peaches on the pastry, brushed it with the vanilla butter, and topped it with some dark brown sugar. Folded up the edges of the pastry, brushed it with milk and sugar, and then baked for 45 minutes at 375. Then I did a breakfast galette. I started with an herbed goat cheese, which I did dill, parsley, salt and pepper, and some heavy cream followed by some caramelized leeks. Then I added some thinly sliced Yukon Gold potatoes and seasoned heavily with salt and pepper. Then I folded up the sides of the pastry, put it in a 400-degree oven for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I pulled the pastry out and cracked 4 eggs on top and put it back in the oven for an additional 13 minutes. After that, seasoned with salt, pepper, and parsley, and served. Finally, I finished with an apple galette with a miso caramel. I sliced up 3 apples very thin, added 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, half a cup of water, and the juice of half of a lemon. Make sure to pick out any seeds that accidentally drop in. Toss that together and let it sit. Then I arranged it as prettily as I could on my pastry, then spooned over the excess liquid on top. Wrapped up the sides of the pastry, baked at 375 for 45 minutes. While it was still warm, I covered with a homemade miso caramel and cut to serve.